Hello, and welcome to another episode of Colin Reads. I am Colin, and today I'll be reading Alfred Bester's short story, Fondly Fahrenheit. Enjoy! He doesn't know which of us I am these days, but they know one truth. You must own nothing but yourself. You must make your own life, live your own life, and die your own death, or else you will live another's. The rice fields on Paragon 3 stretch for hundreds of miles like checkerboard tundras, a blue and brown mosaic under a burning sky of orange. In the evening, clouds whip like smoke, and the paddies rustle and murmur. A long line of men marched across the paddies the evening we escaped from Paragon 3. They were silent, armed, intent. A long rank of silhouetted statues looming against the smoking sky. Each man carried a gun. Each man wore a walkie-talkie belt pack, the speaker button in his ear, the microphone bug clipped to his throat, the glowing view screen strapped to his wrist like a green-eyed watch. The multitude of screens showed nothing but a multitude of individual paths through the paddies. The enunciators uttered no sound, but the rustle and splash of steps. The men spoke infrequently, in heavy grunts, all speaking to all. Nothing here. Where's here? Jensen's Fields. You're drifting too far west. Close in the line there. Anybody covered the Grimson paddy? Yeah, nothing. She couldn't have walked this far. Could have been carried. Think she's alive? Why should she be dead? The slow refrain swept up and down the long line of beaters advancing towards the smoky sunset. The line of beaters wavered like a writhing snake, but never ceased its remorseless advance. 100 men spaced 50 feet apart. 50,000 feet of ominous search. 1 mile of angry determination stretching from east to west across a compass of heat. Evening fell. Each man lit his search lamp. The writhing snake was transformed into a necklace of wavering diamonds. Clear here, nothing. Nothing here. Nothing. What about the Allen paddies? Covering them now. Think we missed her? Maybe. We'll be back and check. This'll be an all-night job. Allen paddies clear. God damn, we've got to find her. We'll find her. Here she is. Sector 7. Tune in. The line stopped. The diamonds froze in the heat. There was silence. Each man gazed into the glowing screen on his wrist, tuning to Sector 7. All tuned to 1. All showed a small nude figure awash in the muddy water of a paddy. Alongside the figure an owner stake of bronze read Vandeleur. The end of the line converged toward the Vandeleur field. The necklace turned into a cluster of stars. 100 men gathered around a small nude body, a child dead in a rice paddy. There was no water in her mouth. There were finger marks on her throat. Her innocent face was battered. Her body was torn. Clotted blood on her skin was crusted and hard. Dead 3-4 hours at least. Her mouth is dry. She wasn't drowned. Beaten to death. In the dark evening heat, the men swore softly. They picked up the body. One stopped the others and pointed to the child's fingernails. She had fought her murderer. Under the nails were particles of flesh and bright drops of scarlet blood, still liquid, still uncoagulated. That blood ought to be clotted, too. Funny. Not so funny. What kind of blood don't clot? Android. Looks like she was killed by one. Vandeleur owns an android. She couldn't have been killed by an android. That's android blood under her nails. The police better check. The police will prove I'm right. But androids can't kill. That's android blood, ain't it? Androids can't kill. They're made that way. Looks like one android was made wrong. Jesus. And the thermometer that day registered 91.9 degrees gloriously Fahrenheit. So there we were aboard the Paragon Queen, en route for Magaster 5. James Vandeleur and his android. James Vandeleur counted his money and wept. In the second-class cabin with him was his android, a magnificent synthetic creature with classic features and wide blue eyes. Raised on its forehead in a cameo of flesh were the letters M.A., indicating this one was one of the rare multiple aptitude androids, worth $57,000 on the current exchange. There we were, weeping and counting and calmly watching. 12, 14, 16. $1,600, Vandeleur wept. That's all. $1,600. My house was worth $10,000. The land was worth $5,000. There was furniture, cars, my paintings, etchings, my plane, and nothing to show for everything but $1,600. Christ! I leaped up from the table and turned on the android. I pulled a strap from one of the leather bags and beat the android. It didn't move. I must remind you, the android said, that I am worth $57,000 on the current exchange. I must warn you that you are endangering valuable property. You damned crazy machine! Vandeleur shouted. I am not a machine, the android answered. The robot is a machine. The android is a chemical creation of synthetic tissue. What got into you? Vandeleur cried. Why did you do it? Damn you! He beat the android savagely. I must remind you that I cannot be punished, I said. The pleasure-pain syndrome is not incorporated in the android synthesis. Then why did you kill her? Vandeleur shouted. If it wasn't for the kicks, why did you... I must remind you, the android said, that the second-class cabins in these ships are not soundproofed. Vandeleur dropped the strap and stood panting, staring at the creature he owned. Why did you do it? Why did you kill her? I asked. I don't know, I answered. First it was malicious mischief, small things, petty destruction. I should have known there was something wrong with you then. Androids can't destroy. They can't harm. There is no pleasure-pain syndrome incorporated in the android synthesis. Then it got to arson. Then serious destruction. Then assault. That engineer on Rigel. Each time worse. Each time we had to get out faster. Now it's murder. Christ! What's the matter with you? What happened? There are no self-check relays incorporated in the android brain. Each time we had to get out it was a step downhill. Look at me. In a second-class cabin. Me. James Paleolog Vandeleur. There was a time when my father was the wealthiest. Now $1,600 in the world. That's all I've got. And you. Christ damn you. Vandeleur raised the strap to beat the android again, then dropped it and collapsed on a berth, sobbing. At last he pulled himself together. Instructions, he said. The multiple aptitude android responded at once. It arose and awaited orders. My name is now Valentine. James Valentine. I stopped off on Paragon 3 for only 1 day to transfer to this ship from Magaster 5. My occupation, agent for one privately owned MA android, which is for hire. Purpose of visit, to settle on Magaster 5. Fix the papers. The android removed Vandeleur's passport and papers from a bag, got pen and ink and sat down at the table. With an accurate, flawless hand, an accomplished hand, they could draw, write, paint, carve, engrave, etch, photograph, design, create, and build. It meticulously forged new credentials for Vandeleur. Its owner watched me miserably. Create and build, I muttered. And now destroy. Oh God, what am I going to do? Christ, if I could only get rid of you. If I didn't have to live off you. God, only I'd inherited some guts instead of you. Dallas Brady was Magaster's leading jewelry designer. She was short, stocky, amoral, and a nymphomaniac. She hired Vandeleur's multiple aptitude android and put me to work in her shop. She seduced Vandeleur. In her bed one night she asked abruptly, "Your name's Vandeleur, isn't it?" "Yes," I murmured. Then, No, it's Valentine, James Valentine." "What happened on Paragon?" Dallas Brady asked. "I thought androids couldn't kill or destroy property. Prime directives and inhibitions set up for them when they're synthesized. Every company guarantees they can't." "Valentine!" Vandeleur insisted. "Oh, come off it," Dallas Brady said. "I've known for a week. I haven't hollered copper, have I? The name is Valentine. You want to prove it? You want I should call the cops? Dallas reached out and picked up the phone. For God's sakes, Dallas! Vandeleur leaped up and struggled to take the phone from her. She fended him off, laughing at him, until he collapsed and wept in shame and helplessness. How did you find out? He asked at last. The papers are full of it. And Valentine was a little too close to Vandeleur. That wasn't smart, was it? I guess not. I'm not very smart. Your android's got quite the record, hasn't it? Assault, arson, destruction. What happened on Paragon? It kidnapped a child, took her out into the rice fields and murdered her. Raped her? I don't know. They're going to catch up with you. Don't I know it? Christ, we've been running for 2 years now. 7 planets in 2 years. I must have abandoned $50,000 worth of property in 2 years. You better find out what's wrong with it. How can I? Can I walk into a repair clinic and ask for an overhaul? What am I going to say? My android's just turned killer. Fix it. They'd call the police right off. I began to shake. They'd have that android dismantled inside 1 day. I'd probably be booked as an accessory to murder. Why didn't you have it repaired before it got to murder? I couldn't take the chance, Vandeleur explained angrily. If they started fooling around with lobotomies and body chemistry and endocrine surgery, they might have destroyed its aptitudes. What would I have left to hire out? How could I live? You could work yourself. People do. Work at what? You know I'm good for nothing. How could I compete with a specialist androids or robots? Who can, unless he's got a terrific talent for a particular job? Yeah, that's true. I lived off my old man all my life. Damn him. He had to go bust just before he died. Left me the android, and that's all. The only way I can get along is living off what it earns. You better sell it before the cops catch up with you. You can live off 50 grand. Invest it. At 3%, 1,500 a year. When the android returns 15% on its value, 8,000 a year. That's what it earns. No, Dallas. I've got to go along with it. What are you going to do about its violence kick? I can't do anything except watch it and pray. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. It's none of my business. Only one thing. I ought to get something for keeping my mouth shut. What? The android works for me for free. Let somebody else pay you, but I get it for free. The multiple aptitude android worked. Vandeleur collected its fees. His expenses were taken care of. His savings began to mount. As the warm spring of Megaster 5 turned hot summer, I began investigating farms and properties. It would be possible, within a year or two, for us to settle down permanently, provided Dallas Brady's demands did not become rapacious. On the first hot day of summer, the android began singing in Dallas Brady's workshop. It hovered over the electric furnace which, along with the weather, was broiling the shop, and sang an ancient tune that had been popular half a century before. Oh, it's no feat to beat the heat. All reet, all reet. So jeet your seat, be fleet, cool and discreet, honey. It sang in a strange, halting voice, and its accomplished fingers were clasped behind its back, writhing in a strange Roomba all their own. Dallas Brady was surprised. You happy or something? She asked. I must remind you that the pleasure-pain syndrome is not incorporated in the android synthesis, I answered. All reet, be fleet, cool and discreet, honey. Its fingers stopped their writhing and picked up a heavy pair of iron tongs. The android poked them into the glowing heart of the furnace, leaning far forward to peer into the lovely heat. Be careful, you damned fool, Dallas Brady exclaimed. You want to fall in? I must remind you that I am worth 57,000 credits on the current exchange, I said. It is forbidden to endanger valuable property. All reet, honey. It withdrew a crucible of glowing gold from the electric furnace, turned, capered hideously, sang crazily, and splashed a sluggish gobbet of molten gold over Dallas Brady's head. She screamed and collapsed, her hair and clothes flaming, her skin crackling. The android poured again while it capered and sang. Be fleet, cool and discreet, honey. It sang and slowly poured the molten gold. Then I left the workshop and rejoined James Vandeleur in his hotel suite. The android's charred clothes and squirming fingers warned its owner that something was very much wrong. Vandeleur rushed to Dallas Brady's workshop, stared once, vomited, and fled. I had enough time to pack one bag and raise $900 on portable assets. He took a third-class cabin on Magaster Queen, which left that morning for Lyra Alpha. He took me with him. He wept and counted his money, and I beat the android again. And the thermometer in Dallas Brady's workshop registered 98.1 degrees beautifully Fahrenheit. In case you're wondering, no, that's not how the story ends. This was just the first part. But to hear the rest of the story, you'll have to tune in for parts 2 and 3. This has been an episode of Colin Reads. I have been Colin, you have been my audience, and thank you for joining me. Goodbye!